Hello everyone, this is MJ's Tabletop Creations and Games. That is the title of my Facebook page. So this video, it's going on my YouTube channel, but it is with my Facebook page in mind. So this week, as you know, last week, I'll start with a little recap. I like to generally update my give a little weekly update. I started doing that when I first opened my page on Facebook, and usually I give like a little update of what's going to be going on in the week, and a little recap of what went on last week. So last week I worked a lot on siege equipment, and I made this tinfoil castle and everything else, and I showed how I used tinfoil and all that in terrain. And then I went ahead and using craft sticks just made some catapults, a ballista, and there's a few more siege models that I'd like to make for my games, and you'll see those pop up on the page right before I complete that topic and move on. So this week you might see a couple of those siege models that I'd like to finish. One of them is going to be a battling ram, and the other one's going to be a siege tower. All right, that project's going to be a little bit more involving, the siege tower. So I'm not sure if I'm going to start that this week, or if I'm just going to do it, off camera and then bring it once it's finished, then show it. And that's all going to be kept on the shelves, ready. So when we decide to have a siege game, I can bring everything out and everything will be ready. But this week, I do want to show a game that I've been wanting to show for a while. It's one of these indie games, and in the future, I may actually show, some of the indie games that I have, in addition to some of the bigger company games like War Machine and Hordes, or even Gates of Antares, which I already posted a few posts on that. But this week is going to be a very interesting rule set, Songs of Blades and Heroes. And I'd like to cover that a little bit this week, and then play, make up a warband and play to show you guys what that game is like. Now, Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes is a rule set that it's very simple, but it has a lot of expansions. And I actually printed out, I got digital copies because they're a lot cheaper, and then printed them out, and I have several expansions for the game. And it has rules for all the fantasy tropes, well, most of the major fantasy tropes and a lot others that you see in fantasy. So you can have characters and warbands, representing any of these tropes. You can have elf warbands, orcs, goblins, whatever you want. It's there. You can even mix it up with creatures, etc., etc. So this is a very open game system, and it's great. I've had a lot of fun with this in the past. I've made, not only that, I've made some roster sheets, but I may not use these roster sheets. I actually made these and then printed these out. They have all my information for warbands, right? And I may actually do them on index cards this time, or print out cards like I have done in the past. I usually print out the traits, right? And then I cut them out and I have little cards. And that makes it a lot easier to distribute the traits among the individual figures. I'm not going to talk about rules or anything right now, but it's a game that really, it's great for introducing new players into the hobby. And that's why it's a game that I've been wanting to show for some time, okay? And have my gaming library back there. This is certainly one of the rule sets that I really recommend. Okay, and this is from Ganesha Games. You can find that on the Ganesha Games website. In addition to have a lot of free downloads and game aids, they have battle reports, things that you can look at to learn more about the games before investing in it. But they have a lot of cool rules, and not just fantasy. I think they have some alternate history, science fiction, you know, a lot of different goodies on that site. So I really recommend Ganesha Games. And check out their free download section. There's a lot of game aids out there. So, towards the end of the week, I'm going to come up with a warband, or maybe use one of my old warbands, since they're already made, and then get some miniatures, set up a table, and show you the games, and it'll be really cool. So that's that. That's the game of the week. So, Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes, and we'll talk more about it as the week progresses, and maybe have like a little practice game where we can move the miniatures around, so show you the rules before I get into any kind of, you know, real game with it. So try that. And also this week on my projects list, I have some one of the things that I'm missing in my terrain collection is the interior of buildings. A lot of times, a lot of scenarios in Frostgrave, for example, Rangers of Shadow Deep, that's another game I'll be talking about, and even Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes, you can play in dungeons, you can play in like the interior of buildings, and so that's one of the things that I want to bring to the workbench, is some interior buildings, right? So like a castle, have the interior of it, make some miniature furniture as terrain, maybe have some a modular wall system that I can build, and pillars, right? All those things. I'm going to choose a base material, whether it's foam, tinfoil, whatever it is, and build a whole set of modular terrain pieces for that kind of theme. So this way I'll have that covered, and whenever I play a game that requires that kind of terrain, we have it available, and that'll bring something interesting to the page. So that's going to be the building aspect for this week, and depending on how much time I have, you know, there might be a day or two where I really can't, you know, work in the studio, so we'll just keep going, right, and just see how much I can get done. So look out for that on the page this week, and look out for Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes. I want to talk about that a little bit and start some games, and also some terrain projects. I may have some terrain projects geared up just for that. So interior buildings with some miniature furniture. It's going to help in games like Frostgrave or Rangers of Shadow Deep, and those games are projected in the future. I'm not ready yet to show those games, but I do have them in digital copies and in book form. And of course, Frostgrave is going to have its second edition coming very soon, so we are on the lookout for that. But before all that, Advanced Song Blades and Heroes, what is it? It's an indie game. How do you play it? What kinds of miniatures can you use for it? It doesn't have any miniatures line. You use your own miniatures, whatever you have, and it's definitely a cheaper way to get into the hobby, and it's a fun rule set. So that'll be next on MJ Tabletop Creations and Games, and that's all I have as an update for the page. I thank you guys very much.